special council meeting, and we'd like to start the meeting at this time. We obviously don't have to go through many of the gyrations that we normally go through at a regular meeting. So at this time, I'm going to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Belke.
Here.
Mr. Engel.
Here.
Ms. Hannikin.
Here.
Mr. Molnar.
Here.
And Ms. Tully. Here.
Okay. Given that this is a special council meeting, the agenda has been put together for us, and the first item here is ordinance number 14, 2016.
That's me, right?
Yes, it is, and I gotta find the agenda. There it is.
Mr. Mayor, I move to offer ordinance number 14, 2016 for its third reading by title only.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
I do have some questions,
Oh,
Mr. Mayor.
Let's go to the third reading, then I'll open that
Okay.
up. I'm sorry, I should have done it that way. Josephine,
An ordinance amending the codified ordinances in order to mandate an approved security action plan for the big box retail businesses that are designated as retail security issue locations.
okay, you've heard the reading. What is your pleasure?
Do we have questions?
Yeah, well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to have that as soon as I get the motion in a second here.
Excuse me, Mayor. You
You're supposed to
presented another addition tonight.
Oh, the amendment, I'm sorry. Would you like to offer the amendment to this?
I will offer the
We did
amendment.
that last time.
Yeah, but there's one
I move to
little-
offer the amendment to ordinance 14, 2016.
Just this part.
Here we go.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second to that, to add the
I
amendment?
already did.
What amendment?
It's the one we
This-
got last week and we got it again today.
in bright yellow?
Well,
We got it last week too.
no.
This is the addition, this
This
number
is
seven.
amendment.
I'm thinking that's what I'm trying to make the point is you gotta tell us what you're amending. You need to say you're adding the seven.
Councilor
That's what I
Engel-
just- that's what I'm
Councilor Engel,
indicating.
not
Don't
only
don't
did
get
I
upset.
I'm not upset.
Not only did I email it out, but it was at your place setting, and the section that's changed is highlighted.
I understand. We had no time to talk about this, so I'm sorry I don't know
I emailed
what
it
you're
out
doing.
yesterday.
Well, some of us haven't checked all our emails.
Okay. Kevin, were you offering that as an amendment?
I did, sir.
Okay, and do we have a second? We have a second. Could we have a roll call, please, for the amendment? Number 7 is the only item that's being added here, which is, and let me read it out loud before you do that, please. Number 7 is being added to this, and it says employment of a loss prevention officer for a minimum of 120 hours per week for big box retail businesses having a total gross floor area larger than 130,000 square feet and that are open more than 8 hours per day. That is the added item that's being put on this.
And that's found in section 795.03A.
What did I say, 18? Oh, I'm sorry, 18.
That's a key number.
18, I'm sorry, 18 hours, I'm sorry. Okay, now, we'll open it up for any questions.
Okay, Mike, did we have a vote on that?
We did not have. a
Oh,
roll
I'm
call
sorry,
on
yeah,
it.
do the roll call on the amendment. I'm kind of losing my way here because of
All right.
running through this.
I think-
Mr. Bilkey,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Ms. Hannikin,
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
and Ms. Tully.
Yes.
Okay, the motion's carried and the amendment's on here. So now do we have a motion then to adopt?
Can we ask a question?
Yeah, I was going to do that after I get the motion to adopt.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were passing it over.
No.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I move to pass and post and adopt resolution number is it 14, 2016, and pass and post according to law.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
No. He just his motion was to pass according to law. I think, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He already offered it
Yeah,
for the
before you
third
vote, you
reading.
can-
This
He
is-
offered
this
the
has already
amendment
been
and
offered.
now he's
Looking for a
offering it.
second and then discussion.
Now we'll go to discussion after we have a motion and a second.
Third reading.
Got it.
Okay.
Oh, you're right.
It's third reading. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
No, you don't need one. Third reading.
Yeah, it's third reading, so you can go to discussion.
No, this isn't a motion to adopt.
Yeah.
We've already had,
We already did the reading.
We already done the
amended
reading.
it.
So we
Now
can
we're
go
going
to
to
discussion.
discussion.
oh, we've already done the
All right,
reading.
All right, wait, just stop in.
We already did
I-
the reading.
Because it is a motion to adopt, I do need a second. Wait, I
Yes,
do, motion to adopt needs a second.
second,
Right,
correct.
that's all we're waiting
Second.
for.
Thank you. Now, we have a motion and a second.
Now you can have
Now we can have
discussions.
discussion, so anyone here that would like to comment, please do so.
If I understand, the original Exhibit A, which was attached to the original document, or the original ordinance, was superseded in total by Exhibit A that was introduced as an amendment last time.
Correct.
So the original Amendment A, which discusses requirements as to coming up with a business security plan,
Correct.
is entirely out, and now all we're doing is requiring certain stores to provide loss prevention managers or officers for certain hours during the week. Am I correct?
Correct. What we did with this, as you can see, that was enumerated under 795.03, that there was, Section A, there's 7 items to which we put into place, which is the criteria of delineating from a 25,000 to a 55,000 square foot box all the way up to a 130,000 square foot big box user.
Right. But we're no longer asking or requiring that the store to come up with a security action plan which meets the police department's requirements.
May I?
Sure.
Or Mr. Credit?
No, it's simple.
No, it's not.
There's a requirement in Section A of 79503, and retail business, big box businesses are required to obtain loss prevention personnel if they meet the requirements of a particular subsection. The addition for number 7 is for businesses operating, loss prevention personnel is required for 120 hours if they're above 130,000 square feet and operating for more than 18 hours per day.
But we're totally doing away with the requirement that they come up with a security plan, discuss it with the police chief, and come up with some type
Well,
of...
if you look at subsection C of that section, at that point, they have to, if they're identified as a retail security issue location, then they're required to provide an Ohio licensed security guard or one off-duty Macedonia law enforcement officer during business hours. So they'll have to coordinate with the police department for that provision and for these other provisions to make sure that they're in compliance. Beyond that, you're correct, it has been changed, so the security action plan is not required, as was originally set forth.
All right.
But I think, could I
Sure,
say
go ahead.
something? I think what he's asking, and I'm being presumptuous,
No, go for it.
is the exhibit that was presented 2 weeks ago or a week ago. The only change to that exhibit
Right.
is the addition of section 7.
I understand that.
Okay.
Oh, could I then ask my questions?
Sure.
Are you finished with yours?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. Now that we have created this sort of sliding scale of, how many hours per week are required for each level of business, this is in all of the Macedonia retail areas, I gather, right?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And it details that that if there is a big box retail business that has a gross floor area of 130,000 and they're open more than 18 hours a day, then they have to employ this loss prevention officer. In other words, has this all been discussed with the businesses in retail areas so that they know what the additional cost will be for each one of these businesses because of our desire to have a loss prevention officer on duty for X number of hours?
Well, we've had, obviously, our police personnel have had discussion with their loss prevention people that they have in place in many of these larger big box users.
Right.
And that's what's driven us to providing this new law, because their loss prevention program and their national, if they're national type tenants, their desire is not to follow any type of procedure where somebody's committing a crime within their establishment that they will prosecute. So yeah, they do know. So in a sense, they know that we are pushing for legislation to make some changes in that arena.
What I'm saying,
it's a burden on our system. So yeah, they do know.
Well, what I'm saying is, each one of these businesses knows that they are going to have additional costs to be in Macedonia because of this. Is that correct, or
Well, when you say each of these businesses, if they don't have, meet the criteria here, they won't have any cost. So,
Well-
you know, if they have a good loss prevention program and they have, and they're taking care of
Well, I
these
understand.
situations, then they won't have a cost.
Well, I understand, but obviously some people don't, or we wouldn't be here. But so
True.
This one specific one where we are requiring a security guard, I gather that there's a couple things here. One is that we are not to fail to report incidents of theft or other violations of law to the police department. The concern is, I gather, that people are not reporting this sometimes?
That's absolutely true.
Okay, and it says, item C, sub-item C says, any big box business identifies a retail security issue location shall be required to have one Ohio licensed security guard and one armed off-duty Macedonia law enforcement officer okay. So are we saying to them, whoever this is, I assume this is not very many of these businesses, are we to have a specific business like Walmart in mind?
Well, you know, as again, I didn't want to exploit any particular business in our community. Those that, and you've gotten the report, Sylvia, that shows
Yes.
what those
Yeah, well,
businesses
Walmart has
have.
clearly got the most, but they're the biggest retailer.
Okay, so you have the number of incidents that have occurred, and if they don't have a good loss prevention program and a good policy to enforce and allow those that are committing a crime against them and harboring them and not reporting them, that's the reason that we're trying to get this law passed so that that does not occur.
So you're
Depending on
big.
who they are, no matter who they are.
Yeah, well, I understand, but probably not at some of the locations are probably not that much happening based on what the reports showed. So I'm just trying to make sure that I understand what we're doing here. So we haven't really discussed in detail with people. I saw there was a kind of a blank in the ordinance about when this would be implemented. Does that mean that we have to work with them at some point?
Well,
before we
I
do?
think that once we get this in place, we're going to send it out to each and every one that is affected by these numbers, and so that they know that we have a new law that's in place. We're certainly going to give them time to get themselves acclimated to this new law that's on the books, and thereafter, if they continue to have incidents that comply with the ordinance, or I shouldn't say comply, but meet the guidelines of this
Yeah,
ordinance.
that are
And
a
we-
violation of it, yes.
Yeah, right, and then we will then have to enforce it, and thereby asking them to provide a loss prevention program and meet this criteria.
Otherwise, they will be penalized $1,000 a day, is from what I say.
Correct,
Is that correct?
correct.
Okay, so we have, in essence, we're going to be requiring that they invest in loss prevention, and for some specific area, we're going to invest somehow in this, but these businesses are going to have additional cost, and the larger one here, probably Walmart, will have the cost of an additional security person who's a armed guard of some kind. Okay, so I think I'm understanding what this is now, so you can, I've got my questions answered.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I got a question. I don't think it's going to affect the way I vote, but why did it need to be so specific? How many, is that something that you?
You mean as far as the different levels of?
Correct.
Okay, well, because we felt that, there's certain smaller box users that don't have the same situation as larger box users, so we wanted to be fair to those that were smaller, and those that were larger, and those that had perhaps being open 24 hours or more than 18 hours. We were just trying to cover from the smallest units to the largest, bigger units. I guess that's the reason for
That makes sense.
the added detail that's in here. We wanted to be fair.
Without discussing particular stores, how many stores are do we have that are 25,000 square feet or above?
Well, I could probably count at least 6, 7, maybe 8 immediately
Okay.
that fall in that category.
Well, I certainly
about
have
right.
counted them.
Yep.
Excuse me, section 2, should they put the date
So-
in there?
Okay, hearing no other questions, all those in, well, let me have a roll call, please.
One second, section 2?
Mayor, if you want to have an enforcement date, yeah, we do have section 2 of the ordinance blank as of now. If you want to have it read, shall be in full compliance no later than 90 days after the passage of this ordinance. If you'd like to have a 3-month grace period for them, for the businesses.
But that was one of my questions. I don't know how we can have an ordinance without having a.
Well,
Well,
normally
the ordinance
it
is-
would take effect according to law, which would be 30 days.
And it does, but for compliance with the program, we can spell that out in here if we'd like.
So if someone wants to make, I would think that 60 days is plenty of time to get this handled. So I would ask for a motion to provide a 60-day window for us to notice them, to let them know that this law is in effect, and we'll do that even into the 30 days, which is because this doesn't take effect until and after it's signed for 30 days. So 60-day period. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to amend ordinance 14, 2016 to take effect 60 days from passage of the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor with the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried.
So Mr. Guidotti?
Yes.
Mr. Bilkey already had a motion to adopt, and
Sure.
Mr.
He's gonna have
Mulner
to
had already
withdraw.
seconded.
He's gonna have
So that still stands? or
That
does it-
still stands.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So now we can have a roll call, please.
Mr. Bilkey?
So we're actually voting on this measure? This is-
Yes.
Yes,
Finally.
so it's amended to include section 7.
Sounds like it.
And it's been amended, section 2 has been amended to include the 60
I
days.
do think this will increase the safety of the area, especially with some of the other stores closing down, so yes.
Mr. Engel?
Although I think safety is paramount, and I certainly support safety, I don't think that this particular statute does anything to increase safety. I think that the original proposal where the police would sit down with a security action plan, and so that all of these stores that have the issues have a plan, and we can work with them rather than to just say, okay, you have to hire someone for 8 hours a week, which is only one day. I don't think that really, for the smaller ones and even up to the larger stores, guarantees that there'll be an increase in safety, and so I'm voting no.
Ms. Hannikin?
No.
Mr. Mulner?
I think it's been no secret, we've had some issues with some of our big box retailers, and it's not necessarily their fault, it's the criminals who find it fortuitous to frequent the stores and take things that don't belong to them. I know a lot of times in speaking with the police chief, we've visited these places many, many times, and I think our time could be better spent in other places, and this may help prevent that. So the measure is to increase our safety and make our people shopping in our community and the people that live here a little bit more comfortable. It's not to increase their cost or be difficult with them, and I think a lot of these big box retailers already have these things in place, but it's now asking to say, help us help you. So my reply is yes.
Ms. Tully?
After working in retail, this is something that is probably long overdue. And for those of us who shop in the big boxes, see an increase in shoppers all the way around in every store that's in our community, which is a good thing, but we want to keep them there. And part of that is by keeping it a safe environment. So my vote is yes.
Okay. So the motion's carried, and I just want to make one last statement, is that as I've talked to many residents in this community, I've heard a lot of people say that, security at shopping areas within our community is very, very important to them, and that they at times don't feel a level of comfort. And I think it's incumbent upon the city to do whatever it can to make sure that these large big box users, especially those that stay open 24 hours a day, have some sort of plan in place so that they're not burdening our police department and yet making it safe for the general public to come in and out of those facilities. And that's why I'm so supportive of this law going into effect, so thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is ordinance number 17, 2016.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 17, 2016 for its third reading by title only, please.
An ordinance adopting the annual appropriations for salaries and wages and other expenditures of the City of Macedonia for the period January 1, 2016 to December 31st, 2016.
Okay, you've heard the reading.
Ms. RCC, since we had an updated version, I need to make a motion or no?
Absolutely.
Do I need to amend it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I make a motion that we amend ordinance number 17, 2016 as presented with the documentation tonight.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to amend. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, the motion's carried.
Okay, now, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt and pass according to law ordinance number 17, 2016.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
I'll second.
Motion and a second.
I'll be passed.
Are there any questions or comments at this time? Okay, hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bilkey?
Before I vote, I just wanted to thank Rhonda, who just came aboard, in late January, and kind of got thrust into this. So I think I've learned a lot from it, being my first time doing this. And we've gone back and forth, and I think it's a good budget. I think there's concessions made. I think there's things in there that we, the city, that needs moving forward. So my vote is yes.
Mr. Engel?
I'd like to echo Mr. Bilkey's comments regarding thanks for Rhonda. I know that Rhonda's got thrown into the fire, and I appreciate all the work that you've done in this. In the past, sometimes we've passed the general budget by department head, and at times we've passed line item budgets over the several years that I've been a member of council. We've worked on this as a line item budget, but we're going to, the proposal is to pass it as a per department budget, which I don't think is wise. I've always supported the line item budget. I think that's the better way to go. I understand that people disagree with me on that, or at least some do, so I'm voting no.
Ms. Hannigan?
Yes, I have looked at this in detail. There are some questions that we were just addressing this evening. A couple of reasons I think that this particular budget should not be passed at this time. I thought we should have a special meeting in the middle of next week like we originally planned, to give us time to absorb all this and for the residents to see this, since those things were not possible, and there are a number of questions that's still being resolved about sources of revenue and basically how much resource we have for specific items. I'm going to vote no.
Mr. Mueller?
I believe this is our fourth meeting discussing this budget, and I'd also like to thank Rhonda. I know you're new to the game here, and you got a heck of a welcoming, so congratulations on your first budget. But we've had some very long conversations. I think we have worked through a lot of different things to get to where we're at. We're operating on a shoestring, like it's been noted before, but we're doing the best with what we have, and I think for this year and what we're doing, this is the best thing for us, and we're working within our means. I've seen some comments out there that we should live within our means, and we're trying our best to do that, but obviously we're bursting at the seams, and it's becoming more difficult. So absolutely, I vote yes.
Ms. Tully?
First of all, thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, all the council. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, all the department heads. This is the mayor's and the administration's budget. We write the check. They spend the money. They know they only have X amount of dollars. A lot of give and take through the 4 meetings. A lot of repeating questions to make sure that we had clarification. Tonight's meeting, the only big change was, do we get the service department any particular piece of equipment that they desire and require? Everything else we've already talked about. I appreciate all that Rhonda's done. She jumped in feet first into the fire. We have had a lot of discussion. She has answered every question that has come to her from any council member. And we've just begun the discussions on revenue generation, but we're nowhere there yet. So we're running very tight. The only way to save big money in this budget would be to do 0 replacements. We choose not to do 0 replacements. I think everyone's evident in the police, fire, jailers, service. You've got to have so many manpower to be able to keep the city running. My vote is an enthusiastic yes.
Okay, the motion's carried, and thank you. The next item on the agenda would be ordinance, would that be 18 or 20?
28, and I put it on
28,
everyone's
I'm sorry,
agenda.
okay. Ordinance 28.
Mayor, I offer ordinance 28, 2016 for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Yes.
Can we have a motion, a second? Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bilkey?
I'm assuming that this is the firework for the community
Yeah,
fund.
it
It says it right there, so I'm going to
It's
say yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Hannigan? Ms. Hannigan, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Molnar?
I don't want to belabor the easy ones, but this has always been my baby for the Spirit of Macedonia Festival. And I'm very happy that we're doing this again. And I want to point out one thing, given all the talks we've talked about our finances, and I want to remind everyone that we operate in the black when we do this. It's not a moneymaker. It's not there to boost profits or anything of the sort, but we've operated in the black, and I thank Angela for that. So an enthusiastic yes on this one.
Ms. Tully?
One quick question. Am I accurate in saying that the dollars are less?
The amount of the fireworks? No, it's exactly the same.
Exactly
8,000.
the same. For the show that we get, I'm impressed, yes.
We're going to get a few extra minutes this year.
We absolutely
All
are.
right.
Okay, the motion's carried, and American Fireworks have been doing this for as long as I can remember, so they've been around a long time. So thank you. Next item on the agenda is
Mayor.
We got
That
it
really
done.
was just,
That was
Oh,
just a
That was
read.
I'm sorry.
1.3.
I thought it was the adoption.
it wasn't the doubt.
That was
And you threw me for the roll call, but that's okay. But I'm going to keep you
Okay,
honest,
all
and
right.
now we need a motion to adopt.
Okay, motion to adopt, please.
I move that we pass and post according to law ordinance 28, 2016.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 29.
So before I offer the motion, I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to talk. If we didn't have a work session tonight, so am I going to read this for a third reading? Or, okay. So I am, Mr. Mayor, I offer ordinance number 29, 2016 for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion's carried.
Oh, I'll read it, sir. Sorry. Wait, how about okay. An ordinance confirming the appointment by the mayor of Robert Roddick to the position of building commissioner part-time.
You've heard the reading.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 29, 2016 and post same according to law.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Just by way of real quick, this is a replacement for the building official for the building department. Mike Ladd is retired, or not retired, but taking another job. And Bob Rodick, who is in fact a certified building commissioner, has all of his disciplines, meaning that he can go out and do every inspection that the city currently does in both commercial and residential. He currently is with Oakwood, Glen Willow, Aurora, Highland Hills. My gosh, there's one other I'm forgetting. Reminderville, that's it. So, and Bob is also a Macedonia resident, so that's a great thing. He could walk to work. He lives right next door, and we're excited to have him on. In fact, his brother is Russ Rodick, and he's the building commissioner for Twinsburg. With that, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda then would be ordinance number 30.
Mayor, I offer ordinance 30, 2016 for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried.
I move that we pass, I'm sorry.
An ordinance confirming the appointment by the mayor of Rachel Gambatis to the position of administrative assistant to in the building department.
You've heard the reading.
I move that we pass and post according to law ordinance 30, 2016.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and again, this is a replacement of Andrea, who is going to be moving into the finance department, so there's a vacancy there, and so this appointment will be for that position. Having said that, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Last item would be a motion to go into executive session.
Mayor, I make a motion to enter an executive session for the purpose of preparing and for conducting negotiations with public employees concerning compensation and other terms and conditions of employment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
We're not allowed to do that. I have to do a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bilkey,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Ms. Hannikin,
Yes.
Mr. Molnar.
Yes.
And Ms. Tully.
Yes.
Okay, the motion's carried, and for those that are here in the audience, we're just, after we come out of there, we're just going to adjourn and all go home. So thank you for being here. We're not going to be very long at all, by the way.
Give me a little bit of my old advice.
Yeah.
Move it back to where it was. The last 2 years it was messed up.